Good evening, everybody, and welcome to CPIC, the Catholic Parent Involvement Committee of the HCDSB, Halton Catholic District School Board's first webinar of the school year. Hopefully you will be with us for many more, as we are planning to have one about once a month for the next few months. Tonight's presentation is by the Ontario College of Teachers, and I will introduce our host, our presenter, in a few seconds. First of all, my name is Josh Davestein. I'm the chair of CPIC, and with me is Lisa Coster, the past chair of CPIC, also Rosemary Stagg, a member of CPIC, Barb Belanger, a member of CPIC, and Renata Luisetto, also a member of CPIC. In order for us to have a smooth presentation, if you've been with us before, you've heard this before, on your little tab when you sign in, there is one tab that says questions. If you have any questions, either for us, the organizers, or for the presenter, if you type in your questions there, we will have one of us collate the questions, answer you back during the presentation if it's a technical nature, or if it's for the presenter at the end when he asks for questions, we will read them off to him to keep it in some sort of orderly fashion. So hopefully you will enjoy yourself tonight. And again, like I said before, tonight's presentation is by the Ontario College of Teachers. It's our host, our presenter tonight is Michael Salvatore. He serves as a teacher, a vice principal, and a principal, a college client services manager, accreditation program officer, membership service director, and assistant professor at York University prior to his appointment as chief executive officer and registrar of the Ontario College of Teachers. He's fluent in English, French, German, and Italian. Michael earned a PhD in the curriculum, teaching and learning from Ontario Institute for Studies in Education at the University of Toronto. He also holds an MED and BEd degrees from Western University and a BA from the University of Toronto. He has authored and co-authored numerous teacher resources and textbooks and is an advocate of making self-regulation relevant to members. So without much further ado, Michael, the floor is yours.
Thanks very much for that introduction, Josh, and thank you for this opportunity and the invitation to speak to your Catholic Parent Involvement Committee members. I am going to use a short PowerPoint this evening to principally present to you the Ontario College of Teachers, for those of you that aren't familiar with our organization and what we do. Talk a little bit about our mandate and the objects, the work that we do, and I will leave time for your questions and comments toward the end of the presentation, and also highlight some further opportunities for collaboration and engagement beyond this evening. So to begin, let's move to the next slide. If we consider the number of players in the education spectrum in Ontario, the Ontario College of Teachers' primary mandate is to serve and to protect the public interest. And if we unpack a little bit that public interest, at the heart of it, of course, are the students of Ontario. Their welfare, their safety, and the opportunities they have for meaningful learning experiences. I'm going to talk more in detail about what the college does to advance that public interest, to inspire public confidence. But we take that notion of students at the very center of our work. When we look at the other players in education, I would say that they also have student welfare, student learning at the heart of their work, but they approach it in different ways. The Ministry of Education, for example, responsible for developing the curriculum, the curriculum policy, as well as the documents that form the matter of teaching. They determine the provincial standards for student achievements, distribute funding to the school boards, and really regulate the organization of the 72 school boards across the province. The boards, as you well know, are required for hiring the certified teachers that must be first registered with the Ontario College of Teachers, supervise teacher performance appraisals, build, equip, and furnish schools, and really supervise the overall operation of schools in accordance with the regulations and the ministry directives. We also have teacher federations, of course, in Ontario, whose primary responsibility is to advocate for their members, for teachers themselves, to bargain collectively with the employers, with district school boards, to set working conditions, and to also represent their members in any grievances or disputes with their employers, and they also play a role through a couple of councils in determining salary grid placement for teachers according to their qualifications. But again, as I said, I think all of these players, all of us collaborate and work together with that one common goal of advancing student learning and student welfare. If we look more specifically and turn our attention to the college itself, as I mentioned, our primary responsibility is to serve and protect the public interest, to inspire the public's confidence in the teaching profession. We operate under an act, the Ontario College of Teachers Act, and we have been in existence for about 17 years. Prior to our existence, much of the work that we do was done by the Ministry of Education, which was responsible for issuing teaching certificates, for supervising the universities that offer the teacher preparation programs. Since that time, the college has assumed that responsibility, and we establish the ethical standards and the standards of practice for the profession that describe what teachers do and what it means to be a teacher in Ontario. As I have already mentioned, we set the requirements for entry into the profession, certify the teachers, and we certify currently about 12,000 new teachers each year, and I'll talk a little bit more about that. We also accredit the 17 universities that offer the teacher preparation programs, which are primarily Bachelor of Education programs and some Master of Education programs. And we're also responsible for investigating any complaints that might be made against a member and that have to do or that relate to conduct, to competence, or to fitness to practice issues, which are generally mental or physical health issues which might impair a member's ability to teach. Just to give you a context and to look at a little bit the college, as it were, by the numbers, and to give you a sense of the size of the college, we're currently the only self-regulatory body for teaching in Canada. There are about 44 other self-regulatory bodies that govern other professions, such as medicine, nursing, dental hygiene, architecture, etc. But for teaching in Canada, we're the only self-regulatory body. And if you can see the figures on the slide, just to give you a sense, we have approximately 238,000 members in good standing, and they would represent most of the teachers primarily in the publicly funded school system, elementary and secondary school teachers, principals, vice principals, supervisory officers, directors of education, people like myself in other roles in education in Ontario for which a certificate is required. We accredit additional qualification courses that teachers take throughout their careers, and in 2013 we awarded some 34,000 of those courses that allow them to teach different grade levels or different subjects. To give you a sense of the discipline function, it's a relatively small minority of teachers who would ever breach that public trust and find themselves in a situation where there might be a complaint made against them. And in 2013, there were fewer than 500 complaints, and about 80 of those went forward to a hearing by the discipline committee. And I will talk a little bit more about the discipline function later in our presentation. When we look at the beginning of a teacher's career, we have 17 universities that offer teacher preparation, and among those universities, 52 different programs. Some of them part-time, others full-time, some in French, some in English, some that prepare teachers to be teachers of general studies and others of technological education. So we are right now the largest regulator. One of our newest sibling colleges, the College of Trades, will likely eclipse us in membership, and they will likely have close to 500,000 members by the time that they have certified all of their new members. I mentioned that we, as other regulators, are responsible for setting the standards of the profession. And when we speak of standards, we're really looking at norms or ways to describe what it means to be a teacher. And we have articulated 5 standards of practice, one of which, for example, is commitment to students and their learning. And these descriptions are really aspirational statements. They are meant to inspire teachers to continuously improve, and they describe to the public what they can expect of teachers who are committed to students and their learning, committed to their own ongoing professional learning, to increasing their knowledge about the practice of teaching and their subject matter knowledge. We also have 4 ethical standards that are grouped around notions of trust, respect, integrity, and care, that also describe what it means to be a teacher and how teachers act according to a set of values or guiding principles when they make decisions and when they interact with students. On our website, and I'm using screenshots from our website for our presentation this evening, we have a whole host of resources on our standards of practice that allow teachers to inquire into their own practice, to collaborate with other educators using these aspirational statements. We also have a number of case studies that allow members of the profession and others to look at the standards and apply them to ethical dilemmas. I think that you might find a number of these resources useful for yourselves in looking at what teachers do and getting a better sense of the kinds of dialogue and discourse that occurs around staff room tables in professional learning courses, for example. To talk a little bit about our governance structure, I'm one of about 173 staff members at the college, and we also have a governing council. And so as staff and as the leader of the organization, we're charged with the responsibility of carrying out the policy decisions made by our governing council. And so the council serves in a similar capacity to trustees in a district school board setting. They meet as a large group and by committee to set those policies and practices that then the staff are charged with carrying out. We have a council of 37 individuals. 23 of them are elected members of the profession and come from the various geographic areas in the province, as well as the different kinds of school boards, French and English, Catholic and public. We also have individuals who are elected as an independent school teacher, a principal, a supervisory officer, and a member of the college who is teaching in one of our faculties of education. The other 14 people that make up that council of 37 are appointed members, and they are appointed by the provincial government, and they are to round out more broadly the public interest. And those individuals come from different professions, may have a background in public advocacy or in other areas. The individuals all have 3-year terms that are renewable, and once they come to the table, regardless of their background and whether they're elected or appointed, their sole purpose is to act and really think according to the public interest. So while they may be informed from a variety of points of view from their various experiences, what they bring to bear in their decision making is the public's expectation of the college as a regulator and of the profession. We're moving into an election year in 2015. We will have the election of our 23 elected members, again for a 3-year term. And while the appointed members are named to 3-year terms, they're staggered terms, which would expire at different points. And so we would have renewal over the course of the next 3-year term. Operationally, in the college, the staff and the departments that I oversee in the college are organized according to our functions. And so I had mentioned earlier that one of our primary functions is to set the requirements for entry into the profession, to certify new teachers. And so we have a large membership services department that is responsible for the initial certification, as well as for maintaining the records of our 238,000 members, for keeping their certificates current, when they take an additional qualification course, adding that to a certificate. We have another department that is responsible for investigating complaints and holding hearings, and those are required. Another department that is responsible for the accreditation of the universities offering initial teacher preparation, as well as the additional qualification courses, and setting and enforcing or disseminating the standards of practice. And then a fourth department that is largely operational, that has our communications, human resources, information technology, policy and research, as well as our external relations unit. And I should say that one of my colleagues, Paul Deani, is also participating this evening. You won't hear from him this evening. He's turned the wheel over to me. But as an external relations officer, he works in that department and is also responsible for outreach and for communication on behalf of the organization. So looking more deeply now at some of our functions, In order to become a teacher in Ontario, each individual needs to satisfy 4 minimum requirements. The first one, an academic requirement, so all teachers must hold a post-secondary degree, a minimum of 3 years of academic study, while most would hold a minimum of 4 years degree, 4-year degree, 3 years is the minimum. They also need to meet the professional requirement by having a teacher education program in addition to that post-secondary study, and those in Ontario are the 17 universities that I mentioned. They also need to demonstrate language proficiency in either English or French, and they must also provide evidence of good character. And we assess that in a variety of ways. There's a declaration as part of the application, as well as a criminal record check. And if the individual has taught in another jurisdiction and been licensed to teach elsewhere, we require a statement of professional standing from that jurisdiction to attest to the fact that they didn't lose that right to teach or have it suspended in any of the other sectors. We certify currently 9,000 graduates from the 17 universities in Ontario, and an additional 3,000 individuals who are educated or prepared to teach in the other provinces or territories in Canada, as well as from about 105 different countries throughout the world. And again, we apply that same Ontario standard in looking at the 3-year degree, a minimum of 1 year of teacher preparation, language proficiency in order to certify the internationally educated teachers. Because we are an organization accountable to the public, when we certify a member, we issue them a certificate that would list their credentials and qualifications. We also put that information on our public register under the Find a Teacher tab, with which you may be familiar. And so all of our members of the college are searchable on the Find a Teacher function. And I'll just perhaps toggle to our website and give you a view of that function. And so on the Find a Teacher function, if you enter the name or the registration number of any of those individuals and click on it, what you would see, I'm just going to use mine as an example, what you would see essentially are the degrees, the qualifications that are on that individual certificate, and what you can see as you move toward the bottom of the screen are the original qualifications the individual received when they were first prepared to teach, as well as those additional qualification courses that we approve at the college and that allow the individual to take on different roles throughout his or her career or to teach different divisions. And I use mine as an example because if you look at the additional qualification courses, you might think that I haven't been doing much professional learning for the last 12 years, since the last one appears to be 2002. And it's then that we need to look more broadly at ongoing professional learning for teachers. These courses, and about 38,000 are taken each year, we find that it's teachers in the first 10 years of their career who are availing themselves of these courses. And as they move on, they're moving more towards taking graduate degrees or taking courses through the federations, through the district school boards, or other courses beyond our additional qualification course. And so that professional learning framework is much broader than just the additional qualification structure. Let's return us to our presentation. We encourage teachers to use this function when they're introducing themselves on a curriculum night as one way for parents to understand who they are, to understand why they should have confidence in our system and in them in particular, because we know that Ontario teachers are among the most highly qualified in the world. Our college also, a few years ago, introduced a professional designation, the first for the teaching profession in Canada. And the term Ontario Certified Teacher, or in French, Enseignant Agréé de l'Ontario, or OCT, are post-nominal letters that teachers in Ontario can now add after their name to indicate to the public, to their publics and to parents, that they are a certified teacher, similar to the designation that a doctor or a lawyer or an accountant would have, or a registered nurse following their name, that shows that they do belong to a profession, they subscribe to a code of ethics, they have a set of knowledge and skills that allows them to belong to a profession, and in this case to one that regulates itself. I've mentioned a little bit the teacher education programs in Ontario. What I'd like to highlight here is the function that we play in accrediting those. And I've been saying throughout the presentation self-regulation, and we live out that self-regulation in the way that these programs are accredited. It's members of our governing council, members of the profession and appointed members, as well as volunteers from our membership who would serve on accreditation panels and who would actually visit those universities on a cyclical basis, interview graduates, current students, the dean, visit the library, visit the site, to see that those programs meet the accreditation requirements, that what they have in place are strategies and tools and resources to prepare teachers for teaching and learning in the 21st century. On our website as well, you can see all of the universities that offer teacher preparation programs, where they're located, and the kinds of programs that they have. And I would also like to let you know, if you don't know already, that in 2015, we will be enhancing the teacher education programs. And so we have already passed legislation that will allow us to expand the initial teacher preparation program from an 8-month or 1 academic year program to a 4-semester or 2 academic year program. So the beginning teachers will spend more time at universities in their teacher preparation program. They'll also double the amount of time that they spend practice teaching or teaching under the supervision of an experienced teacher in an Ontario school. And we've also articulated more clearly the core content areas. And for the first time, we're seeing the articulation of content that may have been present in some programs, but not as perhaps not as deeply, such as mental health and well-being for students, communication with parents and with the community, a stronger focus on special education and preparing teachers to teach students with a wide variety of learning needs. That program, as I said, will be implemented in September 2015. We've been working with the faculties of education and the Ministry of Education over the past 2 years to start preparing for that change. And so in 2015, the programs will move to a 2-year format. We will also see a reduction in the number of applicants or the number of teachers enrolled in those programs. Currently, there are about 9,000 spaces in Ontario teacher preparation programs, and that will be reduced to about 4,500, but we are also moving to a 2-year program. One of the reasons for the reduction is that we do have a surplus of teachers in most areas of the province and in most teaching areas right now. So we are graduating more teachers than we need, than there are places, and so this reduction will also help to regulate the supply and demand issues. We know from our own surveys that many of our wonderful new teachers are spending as many as 2 to 3 years in part-time positions or are underemployed before finding a full-time position teaching in Ontario. As I said, teachers' learning does not stop after the initial teacher preparation program. We have about 400 different additional qualification courses that teachers can take, and those are the courses I was alluding to earlier. They're offered in the evenings in the summer, some of them by partial distance education or full distance, and allow teachers to teach different grades beyond their initial teacher preparation or to gain greater depth in a particular area of focus, or to take on other roles in the education system, such as a principal or a supervisory officer. And again, to assist members as well as members of the public, we have a function on our website called Find an AQ that would allow those teachers to find out, is there a course in a particular subject area or domain in which they might be interested. And so if they were to click on the Find an AQ function, I'll just show you that quickly. Normally when I'm doing these presentations face-to-face, I ask you to suggest the subject area in which you might be interested. So I'll just assume that maybe you said special education and find out what kinds of courses could I take for upgrading or additional information in special education. Hope you didn't notice my spelling mistake there. So you would key in that area, and then if you scroll down, you'll see all the courses that the college has accredited in that area. And so special education part 1 would be an introduction to the number of exceptionalities and ways to accommodate and modify programs to assist students, opportunities to take a specialist in that particular area. We also have a course that's designed especially for school leaders and their legal responsibilities and support in the area of special education. And again, I would highlight that these are some of the courses that teachers can take, but of course they're broader than just the additional qualification courses when we look at the kinds of professional learning in which teachers would engage. So moving toward the last part, or the last function of the college, I had mentioned the discipline function. And again, I would reiterate that the vast majority of our members uphold our standards of practice, our ethical standards in an exemplary way. They are the way through which we inspire public confidence. But in those rare circumstances where there may be a breach, a member of the public, a parent, may register a complaint with the college against a member of the profession. Another member of the profession could do so. And most of our complaints really are the result of an employer report. So under our act, under the law, an employer must report to the registrar of the college if they feel that we should investigate the conduct, if they have restricted a member's duties, if they become aware of a criminal charge or conviction that might be made against a member. And so the school boards would inform the college. We would initiate an investigation to determine if the allegations are true, if they relate to conduct, competence, or incompetence, or fitness to practice rather. And then an initial committee of our council members, a 3-person panel, would decide whether, if proven, whether that member should be cautioned or admonished, and if they feel that the sanction should be more than a caution or admonishment, they would refer it to a hearing. The hearings of the college are held in public and are quasi-judicial. The college attorneys would serve as prosecution. The member would have a defense attorney, usually offered by the teacher union or principal organization, depending on the member's background. And the panel would be 3 council members who would sit as the adjudicators. They would hear the evidence, make a determination of whether there was a finding of conduct, misconduct, or incompetence, and would then issue a sanction. The hearings could result in a reprimand, a suspension, or in the most serious cases, a revocation. And as I said, we held 80 hearings last year. We anticipate holding 100 hearings this year. We have noticed an increase in the number of complaints in the last few years. Part of that is due to a growing membership. Part of it is due to presentations such as this and others that we're doing, where we make the public aware of this particular function that the college has. We also, in relation to that work, as a regulator, we're responsible for providing advice to our members. And we do that in a variety of ways, and one of the ways is by issuing professional advisories. The first one that we issued to our members, but also with a public audience, so that the public understands what the duties of a teacher are, what they might expect in a particular practice area. The first one focused really on the issue of professional misconduct related to sexual abuse of students, certainly the most egregious of our misconduct. And it provided advice to teachers about the just distance that needs to exist between teacher and student and how to maintain professional boundaries. We know that teaching, among others, is a caring profession, a nurturing profession, that it is about establishing relationships, but the advice in here is how to maintain and ensure those relationships remain professional ones and don't cross the line. That advisory is on our website with our other professional advisories, and really I think does delineate very clearly what are those professional boundaries. Another of our advisories that might be of interest to you because of the prevalence of social media is advice to our members on using electronic communication and social media with students and with parents. It provides some practical advice, also poses some questions for reflection about when we are acting in the digital world. The main message is use electronic communication for all its rich teaching and learning possibilities, but use it judiciously. Be aware of the risks, make students aware of the risks, and maintain the same professional image in the digital world as you present in the face-to-face world. For example, we advise members not to accept friend requests from a student's personal Facebook page to their personal Facebook page. Rather, use or set up a Facebook page on the school board site. Help students do project work through Facebook and learn how to use social media without compromising, again, that professional relationship. So we have done, and I'll speak to this at the end of the presentation, we're happy to collaborate further with you, and we found that some parent involvement committees and other school board trustee groups have been interested in presentations on our advice because they're looking at policies in this regard as well. Our last, most recent professional advisory is on the topic of safety in learning environments, and I come back to that, that heart of the public interest is keeping students safe in the care of teachers. Parents want to know that when their children go to school, that they are safe, they have meaningful learning opportunities, and so this advisory focused on not only physical safety, but emotional safety, building inclusive classroom environments, and has the same format to inform professional judgment. It prioritizes certainly employer policies, making sure that members are aware of those, but also focuses on questions of reflection when we're looking at safe learning environments. I mentioned continuous improvement, ongoing professional learning. The college itself is committed to continuous improvement, and in 2011 we had commissioned a former Chief Justice of the Ontario Superior Court, Pat Lesage, to do a review independently of our discipline practices. He came back 9 months later with a report and 49 recommendations to improve the efficiency of our investigations and hearings, and also the transparency of that, and looking at what the public expects. And we are in the midst right now of working with the government to reintroduce a bill that will make some of those changes to our act, allow us to be more efficient, to be more transparent. It was introduced before the last provincial election, but was dissolved when the election was called. And we just met with our minister recently, and she is interested and keen to reintroduce that. Part of that transparency, I should mention, is that when there is a case of discipline and where we have a finding of misconduct, the college publishes that decision that happened in the open hearing on our website. And so the public can see if there was a sanction made against a member of the profession. Certainly if they were revoked, that would appear in the public register, but it would also indicate if there was a reprimand or a suspension and the allegations. So again, as an organization committed to the public interest, we're obliged to be transparent and show accountability to the public. Part of what we are doing through these presentations is increasing public awareness. That was another of the recommendations from that report that said the public largely doesn't know that the college exists or what it does, and that we need to share more about the college's functions with the public. There are many opportunities for you to continue to learn about us. We do have a public newsletter called The Standard to which you can subscribe, and you would receive that electronically, providing information and updates on what the college is doing, links to other relevant organizations, and we can certainly make sure that you receive information through Josh and Lisa and the organizers of this webinar if that is of interest to you. We also have on our website a speakers bureau, and you will see there a variety of topics on which we present frequently. If those might be of interest to you when you're holding a conference or seminars or symposia. One of them, as I mentioned, is our presentation on using digital media and social media, electronic communication in the education sector or in the classroom. And we have a whole host of other resources all available on our website at www.oct.ca, including those advisories that I described, the Find a Teacher resource. Our college magazine that's available in print and that we issue quarterly is also available in part online. The legislation that governs us, as well as a whole host of other pieces of information. So we're moving toward the end of the presentation, and I will stop talking soon and hear from you, your questions and comments. But we also have information packages that we can send to you and welcome opportunities to continue to work with parent involvement committees, school councils, or other groups, and we're open to your suggestions about how we can continue to connect with you. To give you a sense, we're also moving beyond the education sector. We're talking to the general public in groupings where they occur and have made presentations at some of the expositions and shows in the Greater Toronto area and beyond, speaking to members of the public about the college. I'll leave this screen up with our contact information. We have a wonderful client services group who would be happy to hear from you and answer any questions. They're available by phone and by email. We're also open from 8:30 a.m. to 5 p.m. from Monday to Friday for visitors to the college. And certainly for myself and the organizers of this, we'd be happy to hear from you and provide additional information. So I will pause there, and Josh, turn things over to you if you'd like to open things up for questions or comments.
Thank you very much, Michael. Actually, I have one question. You said earlier, a couple slides ago, that you have a panel that looks into complaints you get about teachers. You know, sexual things might be one that everybody sees in the news, but what some of the other things are you getting? Is it teachers not teaching the right thing, or what would be some of the things you're getting?
Sure. Thanks for the question. The three broad areas over which we have responsibility are conduct, and we have a misconduct regulation that's on our website, and it highlights what are acts of misconduct. So certainly physical, verbal, or sexual abuse, as I said, the most egregious. But there's also sections in there that talk about disclosing information or breaching confidentiality, not keeping proper records for students. There would be a couple of catch-all phrases like conduct that might be unbecoming of a member. And some of those might be using inappropriate language in the classroom or interacting with students in unprofessional ways that would not uphold the standards of the profession. The second broad area is competence, and so in most of those cases it's through the teacher performance appraisal that we learn of it, and if a teacher has had an unsuccessful appraisal and then a second unsuccessful appraisal, the director of the board would be obliged to send a complaint to the college. They may have terminated the employment or suspended the teacher, but they would also send a complaint which we would investigate to see if it should have some impact on the teacher's certification. In many of those cases, when there is a finding, where there is a gap in practice, the member would be required to do coursework before they could resume teaching, or there may be a condition placed on their certificate. And then the last broad area is fitness to practice. Many times a fitness to practice issue, which is a mental or physical impairment, manifests itself in conduct, and it may be that the member is abusing alcohol or has an addiction to alcohol or drugs. Those can also lead to sanctions, to restrictions on a certificate, that the member must continue to be under care and provide medical reports. So those are the three broad areas. And you know, as I said, of the some 500 or 600 complaints that we receive, only about 100 of those are going to a hearing each year, which would be the most serious ones, leading to possibly a suspension or a revocation. The others might be cautioned or admonished, and there would be breaches certainly in the public trust, but they would be normally one-time occurrences where it was a lapse in judgment on the part of a member, where they still need to be cautioned or admonished, but it is not a pattern of behavior where students are at risk.
Thank you, Michael. It's Barbara. I have one question from the line. It's how often are teachers required to have an appraisal?
Great, thank you for the question. So the teacher performance appraisal is under the one of the responsibilities of the Ministry of Education and the employer, not the college, but I am familiar with it. And so new teachers would have an appraisal once in their first year and a second in their second year. and they would take part of the new teacher induction program, which requires those appraisal as well as a mentor and ongoing professional learning. And then I believe beyond the initial appraisal at the beginning of a career, a teacher would undergo one once every 5 years. That said, they also have an annual growth plan that they discuss with their principal that would include ongoing professional learning, and there's a similar performance appraisal system for principals and vice principals. But for more information on that, on the Ministry of Education website under Teacher Performance Appraisal, or TPA, they have a guide that outlines exactly when the appraisals occur, what happens in the case where there might be an unsatisfactory appraisal, and a reassessment.
Okay, thank you very much. One other question. What are some ways that parent councils and colleges can recognize best teachers?
Great. Another good question. I know from the college perspective, we have a few ways that occurs. Through our magazine, through Professionally Speaking, we do a feature on a remarkable teacher each issue. We also have a focus where we've interviewed a public figure or a celebrity who speaks about a teacher that influenced their lives, and we feature that in the magazine. We also have 3 scholarships that we award to outstanding teacher candidates enrolled in one of Ontario's faculties of education each year, which is another way for recognizing that excellence. And the last that I would mention is that our public interest or our Inspiring Public Confidence Conference, which we held last week, we also awarded an Inspiring Public Confidence Award where a teacher is nominated by a member of the public or a parent to be recognized. I know those are some of our ways. I know that both the Premier and the Prime Minister award awards for teaching excellence, and I've served on the selection committee for the Prime Minister's teaching awards for the past several years. So I know there are a number of other ways beyond the college to recognize teaching excellence, and I think those are 2 large-scale ones, the Provincial Teaching Excellence Awards as well as the national ones.
Perfect, thank you. There's just one more question that I can see here. What is the relationship between the college and the unions?
Thank you. So again, as I mentioned earlier, all of the education partners work together in collaboration. The teacher federations, before the college existed, had that discipline function that I was talking about earlier. In the current context, in the discipline context, the college is there to represent the public interest and to investigate complaints and to prosecute when those cases occur. The federations would be on the other side as the defense counsel for the member and member advocacy. So in that setting, those are the roles. In other settings, in the area of let's say, professional learning, we all have a part to play. Federations do a lot of summer institutes and courses for teachers. The view that we would take of the professional learning is, what's the public interest in teachers' ongoing professional learning? How does that inspire public confidence? We consult with the unions when we are developing our professional advisories, vet them through them. So I would say there's also a consultative role that's played among or between our organizations.
Thank you. That's all the questions at this time.
Thank you.
Hello, everybody. That brings us to the end of our presentation, and I'm just going to mute Michael because otherwise when I talk, I hear myself talking through his speaker system. I'll open up at him in a second. I just want to thank Michael for doing this great presentation to us. I also like to just acknowledge that Paul Deaney, he was online as well for this presentation. And just a reminder to everybody that this presentation has been recorded and will be available on our YouTube channel with all the previous webinars. Later on this week, we hope to have it on there. So if you would like to see it again, or if you have friends that said, oh, I missed it, I'd like to see it again, you can make them aware of that. So I'd like to thank everybody for being online. I also want to just mention ahead of time, on December the 4th, we will have our next webinar. That will be about math. our board math consultant, Angelina Barden, will be our host that evening. And it's basically for parents, where can I get the help that everybody so desperately needs these days to help their kids out with math these days. So again, Michael, I'm just going to unmute you again. I'd like to thank you very much for your participation tonight. And everybody else, thank you very much as well.
Thank you very much, John.
Okay, have a great evening, everybody. Okay, thank you. And we'll talk to you next time.